Before we start, if you love true stories about family, betrayal, and women who finally find their voice, this is exactly the kind of story we tell every day on this channel. Stick around till the end, because this one has a twist you will not see coming. Have you ever had your own mother uninvite you from Thanksgiving over the phone in under 90 seconds, like she was canceling a dentist appointment? 5 days before the holiday, mine did exactly that. Her words were simple. Your sister needs this dinner to go a certain way, and honestly, Rachel, your situation might complicate things. I said, I understand, and hung up. What my parents didn't know was that for 2 years, I had quietly held sole control over the $15 million trust my grandmother left behind. The exact money my sister was counting on to fund the wedding of her dreams. And when they showed up at my apartment 5 days later, panicked, and then again at a 400-person gala where I was standing under a spotlight they never expected me in, everything they thought they understood about our family came apart. My name is Rachel Kessler. I'm 31 years old. This is that story. The call came on a Sunday, November 23rd, at 6:52 in the evening. I remember the exact time because I was elbow-deep in a spreadsheet for a client's retirement account, and I just flagged an inconsistency in a fund allocation that would have cost him $11,000 over the next decade. I felt useful, competent. Then my phone lit up with Mom, and within 2 minutes, I felt exactly 9 years old again. Rachel, honey, we need to talk about Thursday, my mother said, in that particular voice she uses when she's already decided something and is only calling to inform me, not discuss it. Okay, I said, setting down my pen. Emily's bringing Grant to meet everyone properly this year. You know how important this is for her. A pause, the kind that precedes something unpleasant. We just think, given everything, it might be simpler if you weren't there this time. Grant Ellison. I'd heard his name maybe 200 times over the past 4 months. Founder of a private wealth advisory firm, 36 years old, drives a car that costs more than my first 2 years of rent combined. Emily's ticket, as far as my mother was concerned, to a life that finally matched what she believed our family deserved. That's great about Grant, I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I wanted Emily happy. I'd love to meet him. Another pause, longer. That's the thing, sweetheart. Emily feels like your presence might send the wrong impression. You know, given your job and the whole situation with the trust. There it was, the whole situation with the trust. 2 years of careful, boring, responsible fiduciary management reduced to the whole situation. Like I'd done something shameful instead of exactly what my grandmother asked of me. Mom, I'm a financial analyst. I work for a respected firm. I don't understand what impression that sends. It's not about the job itself, she said, and I could hear her searching for gentler words she didn't actually believe. It's more that Grant comes from serious money, and we want Emily's side of the family to feel cohesive, successful, you understand. I did understand. I understood that cohesive meant photogenic, and successful meant doesn't make anyone at the table quietly do the math on why the trustee of a $15 million inheritance drives a 6-year-old Honda. I have a request, I said carefully. What if I came for dessert, just to say hello to Grant? Rachel, my mother's voice hardened by exactly 1 degree, the degree she reserves for when I'm supposed to stop pushing. Please don't make this difficult. Emily was very clear. She doesn't want you there at all this year. Don't make this difficult, as if I were the one holding the knife. I understand, I said. The words came out smooth, automatic, worn down by 29 years of practice, because I'd been saying, I understand, since I was 9, and Emily got the bigger half of the birthday cake, because she cried harder when it wasn't offered. I understood when my college graduation got rescheduled around Emily's cheer competition. I understood when my promotion to senior analyst got a 2-line text while Emily's new apartment got 40 minutes of dinner conversation. I understand is the most expensive sentence I have ever learned to say. Good, my mother said, audibly relieved. I knew you'd be reasonable, you always are. We hung up. I sat in my kitchen for a long time after that, staring at the recessed lighting I'd installed myself 2 summers ago, in the apartment I'd bought myself, with a down payment I'd saved myself, working 60-hour weeks that nobody in my family had ever once asked me about. Then I opened my laptop. There was a folder on my desktop I hadn't touched in almost 3 months, labeled simply, Grandma Vivian Trust. Inside was an email from my grandmother's attorney, a woman named Diane Ackafer, sent November 18th, subject line. Annual distribution review Vivian Kessler Irrevocable Trust. I'd been avoiding it, avoiding the decisions it would eventually force me to make. I closed the laptop again. But that night, for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry myself to sleep over my family. I felt something colder and steadier instead, something that had been waiting quietly for 2 years to finally be used. Let me back up, because you need to understand why my grandmother, of all people, put me, the boring daughter, in my family's own words, in charge of $15 million. Grandma Vivian built her fortune the unglamorous way. 41 years of buying undervalued multifamily properties across 3 states, holding them, renovating them herself with a tool belt she kept in her Buick until she was 78 years old. She never talked about the money at family dinners. Most of us didn't grasp the actual size of it until the will was read in Diane Ackafer's office 14 months ago. There were 2 surprises that day. The first, the entire trust, all $15 million, was left solely to Emily to be released to her in full on her 35th birthday. Not split, not shared, all of it to Emily. The second surprise was who Grandma named as trustee, the person with sole legal authority over every distribution until that day arrived. Not my mother, not a bank, me. Diane read Grandma's letter aloud that afternoon. I still remember the exact line, because I've reread it probably 200 times since. Emily has the most beautiful heart in this family, and the most dangerous habit of handing it to people who want something from her. Rachel is the only one who has ever asked a question before opening her wallet. I am trusting her to protect Emily from the world, and sometimes from herself. For the first time in my entire life, being the cautious one, the boring one, had actually been chosen on purpose by someone who saw me clearly. For the first year, this barely came up. Emily received a modest monthly distribution, I filed the paperwork quietly, and life continued. Then Emily met Grant at a wine-tasting fundraiser in April, and within 6 weeks, opportunities started appearing with suspicious regularity. $22,000 for a friend's boutique fitness startup. $60,000 as a bridge on a property Grant promised would triple in value within 18 months. Every single time I asked for documentation, an appraisal, an operating agreement, anything beyond a dinner table pitch. Every single time the paperwork was vague or unaudited or simply never materialized. Every single time I said no, in writing, with my reasoning attached, exactly the way a fiduciary is supposed to. And every single time, within days, my parents would casually mention, always so gently, that maybe I was uncomfortable watching Emily move up in life. That maybe, deep down, this was about control. I won't lie to you, that accusation used to keep me up at night, because there was just enough truth-shaped doubt in it to make me question myself. But every time I actually looked at the pattern, at how neatly each opportunity lined up with exactly what Emily had available that quarter, the doubt evaporated, replaced by something colder and much more certain. The week before Thanksgiving, Grant asked for the largest distribution yet. $410,000, framed as a co-investment in a commercial property he and Emily would supposedly own together. I asked for the title report, the appraisal, basic proof the deal even existed outside a conversation over wine. I never received it. I declined the distribution on November 19th, in writing, the same way I always had. 4 days later, I got the call banning me from Thanksgiving. I want to pause the story here for a second, because I know some of you have lived some version of this. If you've ever been the difficult one in your family for simply asking a reasonable question, type "I understand" in the comments below. You'll know exactly why that phrase makes my stomach turn now. And if you want to know what happened when my family found out exactly what I'd been quietly protecting for 2 years, stay with me, because the gala scene coming up is the part everyone messages me about. Now, back to Thanksgiving week. The night of the call, after I closed my laptop, I didn't fall apart the way I expected to. Instead, I opened the email from Diane Ackafer, and for the first time in 3 months, actually read it in full. The trust currently held assets valued at just over $15 million. As sole trustee, I had complete discretionary authority under Section 4.3 of the trust document, timing, amount, and conditions, entirely at my judgment. I thought about Grant's $410,000 request. I thought about my mother's voice saying, "Given your situation." I thought about my grandmother's hands, weathered from decades of renovation work, closing over mine the last time I saw her, saying, "One day you'll understand exactly why I chose you. You're not powerless, Rachel. You were never powerless. You just never had a reason to use your voice." I closed the laptop that night without deciding anything. But I went asleep, for the first time in 2 years, actually intending to use it. Thanksgiving Day itself was quiet and gray. I woke at 6 out of habit, made coffee, and spent the day 15 miles from a table with no chair for me. At 8:41 p.m., Emily texted a photo. Our whole family around my parents' dining table, my mother glowing beside Grant, my father looking mildly uncomfortable but smiling, 4-place settings, no empty chair, no acknowledgement I existed. The caption read, "Grant said we're so put together, lol." I sat with that photo a long time. I noticed my mother was wearing the sapphire earrings I'd bought her for her 60th birthday. I noticed, on the sideboard behind them, Grandma Vivian's silver serving set, the one she'd promised me, specifically, because I was the only grandchild who ever helped her polish it every Christmas. My mother had kept it anyway. At 9:20, my father texted, separately, "Sorry about today, sweetheart. Your mother thought it was for the best. Love you." I typed 4 different responses and deleted every one. Sorry doesn't set a place at a table. I called my friend Priya instead, who I'd worked with for 6 years and who was the only person outside my family who knew about the trust. "Please tell me you're not alone right now," she said. I told her everything, the call, the photo, the silver serving set. She was quiet for a moment, then said, gently but firmly, "Rachel, when are you going to stop letting them treat you like the family's emergency contact and nothing else?" I told her I didn't let them. She said, "You do. You pay, you show up, you apologize for existing, and they keep taking because you keep absorbing it." I knew she was right. I'd known for years. I just hadn't been ready to act on it. The following Monday, I called Diane Aucaffer's office and asked for a meeting. She could see me at 2 that afternoon. Her office sat in a converted brownstone, brass fixtures, leather chairs, the kind of calm authority that makes you feel like even your worst family chaos can be handled with the right paperwork. "Your grandmother was very deliberate," Diane told me, spreading the trust documents across her desk. "She wanted Emily to eventually inherit everything. But she also told me, more than once, that she was worried Emily had never been required to develop resilience because everything had always simply appeared for her. She believed you would teach her the difference between being given something and earning it, not through cruelty, through patience." Diane looked at me directly. Her exact words to me were, "Rachel is the only one in that family with the spine to say no and the heart to say it kindly." I sat with that for a long moment, 47 pages of legal language, and somewhere inside them, my grandmother's quiet faith in me. "There's one more thing," Diane said, sliding an envelope across the desk. "Your grandmother left you a separate personal bequest, outside the trust. $50,000, unrestricted. Records show you've been directing it toward the Lawson Family Foundation's annual gala for the past 2 years. I had, quietly, anonymously as I could manage, because I never wanted my family's opinion of me tied to money. The gala, it turned out, was in 5 days. Saturday, November 29th, the same charity event Emily and Grant were attending to make their public debut as a couple among Boston's finance crowd. I hadn't realized the dates would collide until that exact moment, sitting in Diane's office, holding an engraved VIP badge with my name on it in gold lettering. 3 days later, on Friday evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped, my mother, my father, and Emily, all standing in my hallway. My mother pushed past me before I'd even finished opening the door. "We need to talk about Grandma's trust," she said. Grant's financial advisor ran a background check before the wedding planning moved forward. Standard procedure at his level, apparently. Imagine our surprise finding a $15 million trust with your name attached as trustee, one none of us ever knew existed. Emily's face was flushed with something between fury and disbelief. "You, a financial analyst making what, $90,000 a year? Grandma wouldn't have trusted you with anything important. This has to be a mistake." My mother produced a folder from her bag, paperwork, apparently drawn up by their own attorney to transfer trustee authority to her. "It's really the simplest arrangement, sweetheart. We're family. We should handle this together." "No," I said, "just that. The word landed heavier than I expected it to. Rachel, be reasonable. Grandma chose me, deliberately. There were 2 independent witnesses and a full competency evaluation. The trust is airtight, and I'm not signing anything. I kept my voice level, the same voice I use closing out a difficult client call. I'm doing exactly what she asked me to do. Emily's composure cracked completely. You don't know anything about real money. You drive a Honda. You've been jealous of me my entire life, and this is just your way of finally getting to control something. I let that sit in the air for a second before I answered. I'll be at the gala tomorrow night. If you want to talk about the trust, we can talk there. Emily laughed, sharp and dismissive. You weren't invited. I reached into my bag on the entry table and held up the badge, gold lettering on cream cardstock. Founding tier donor, 2 consecutive years. My mother's face did something I had genuinely never seen it do before. It simply stopped working for a moment, all the practiced diplomacy gone. That's not possible, she said. Feel free to verify with the foundation directly, I said, and for once in my life, the silence that followed belonged entirely to me. The Lawson Gala took place in the Ainsworth Hotel's grand ballroom the following night, crystal chandeliers, 400 guests in formal wear, a minimum donation of $2,500 a seat. I arrived at 7:10 in a simple navy dress I'd bought 2 years earlier, badge pinned above my heart, and for the first time in 2 years of attending this event quietly, I didn't try to slip in unnoticed. At 7:40, I spotted my family across the room. My mother in emerald green, my father visibly uncomfortable in a rented tux, Emily radiant beside Grant, who carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who had genuinely never worried about a bill in his life. At 7:52, Grant noticed my badge while scanning the room the way people in his line of work automatically do. He crossed the floor, pulling Emily along, and extended his hand with practiced warmth. I don't believe we've met, but I wanted to thank you personally for your support of the foundation. Contributions at your tier are rare. I shook his hand. I'm Rachel Kessler. I watched the name land, watched him glance at Emily, watched the recalculation happen behind his eyes in real time. Kessler, as in Emily's sister? Emily's face had already gone pale. You told me an hour ago you didn't recognize the woman with the founding donor badge, Grant said slowly, turning to her. The lighting, Emily started. It's the lighting, he repeated, and something in his voice cooled by several degrees. Diane Ockhafer appeared at exactly the right moment, as attorneys who have done this a long time somehow always do. Rachel, I didn't expect to see you tonight. We're still on for Monday morning regarding the annual review? Grant's attention sharpened immediately. Review? Diane smiled, perfectly bland. Rachel is one of my most diligent clients. She manages a substantial family trust with remarkable care. She turned to my mother. Your mother-in-law made an excellent choice naming her trustee, Mrs. Kessler. The temperature around our small circle dropped several more degrees. Trustee, Grant repeated, looking at Emily. You told me the trust was being handled by the estate directly. Emily opened her mouth and closed it twice, finding absolutely nothing to say. I'll pause again here, because I know a lot of you are dying to know what happened next, and I promise we're getting there. But first, if you've ever watched someone's whole carefully built story collapse in real time because the truth simply walked into the room, drop a comment and tell me you've been there too. And if you're the difficult one in your own family right now, quietly holding more strength than anyone gives you credit for, hit that like button, because this next part is for you. Okay, back to the ballroom. I left them there, surrounded by 400 witnesses, and found Diane near the silent auction tables. That was more dramatic than I anticipated, she said mildly. I didn't plan it that way, I told her. The best confrontations rarely are planned, she said, and asked if I had a clearer sense of my intentions for Monday. I did. I wanted to defer Emily's next distribution for 12 months on the grounds of beneficiary readiness under Section 4.3. I wanted to require a certified financial literacy course before any future release of funds. I wanted to inform Grant, honestly and without malice, about the trust structure, because he deserved complete information before marrying into it. And I wanted, more than anything, to keep serving as trustee exactly as my grandmother intended, not out of spite, but because someone finally needed to. Emily found me by the coat check as I was leaving. Her mascara had run slightly. I hope you're satisfied, she said, voice shaking. Grant wants to reconsider everything now, the engagement, the wedding, everything, because of you. Because of choices you made, I said quietly. I just happened to be standing in the room when the truth became visible. You've always been jealous of me, she said, the same accusation, worn thin from overuse. I stepped closer. Grandma loved you, Emily. She wanted you to have this money. She also wanted you to become someone who could actually hold on to it, take the course. Show me you're ready. In 12 months, we revisit everything. Her face crumpled. You're making me earn my own inheritance. You've never had to earn anything in your life, I said, as gently as I could manage. Maybe it's time you learned how. She told me she hated me. I told her I understood. And for once, I actually meant something different by those words than I ever had before, not surrender, just acceptance of where we currently stood. The fallout arrived quickly. Grant put the engagement on indefinite hold within 48 hours. Emily's position at his firm, where she'd been working in a role Diane later confirmed, had been essentially created for her, quietly dissolved by the following week. My mother spent days fielding calls from her social circle, all thinly disguised as concern, all really fishing for details about the scandal, apparently now circulating through half of Boston's charity board. My father sent me a long email 2 days later, 3 full pages, the most he'd written to anyone in years, apologizing for 3 decades of silence and acknowledging he'd let my mother's treatment of me go unchallenged for far too long. I read it 3 times and saved it in a folder I labeled simply, Dad. I signed the deferral paperwork the following Monday at 9:15 in the morning. Emily enrolled in a 12-week financial literacy course starting mid-January, not gracefully, but she enrolled. Her first text to me afterward read, "Fine, I'll do your stupid course, don't expect a thank you." I told her I didn't need one, I needed results. 4 weeks later, 4 days before Christmas, I hosted a small dinner in my apartment. Not the 12-person spread my parents' house usually held, just 6 chairs, borrowed from a neighbor, around a table pushed against the wall to make room. My father came, alone, carrying a bottle of wine and a nervous kind of hope I'd never seen on him before. It was the first time in 10 years anyone from my family had been inside my home. "It's nice here," he said, looking at my bookshelves and the photographs on my walls. "It's you." At one point during dinner, he caught my eye and mouthed simply, "Thank you." I nodded. We were both, slowly, learning what an honest relationship between us could actually look like. Emily texted that night, "Merry Christmas, Rachel, I'm trying." My father, sitting across from me, had already heard the same from her. "The course is harder than she expected," he said, "but she's doing the work." I texted back 3 words. "I see that." Not forgiveness yet, not warmth exactly, just a door left slightly open on my terms for the first time in my life. If you're wondering whether I have any regrets about how all of this unfolded, the honest answer is no. None. My only regret is that it took me 29 years and 1 uninvited Thanksgiving to finally use the voice my grandmother always knew I had. If you've ever had to set a boundary with people you love, or if you're standing at the edge of doing it right now and you're scared, I want you to know you're not alone in that fear, and you're not selfish for choosing yourself. If this story hit close to home, let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and I love hearing which part of these stories you connected with most. If you enjoyed this one, hitting that like button genuinely helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear stories like this. And if you want more stories about family, betrayal, and women finding their strength, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because a new story goes up every single week, and you will not want to miss the next one. Thank you so much for spending this time with me tonight. Take care of yourself. You deserve exactly that.